Great news! There's a quick way you can save money. Switch to Geico. Geico could help you get great coverage at a great price, and it only takes 15 minutes to see if you could save 15% or more on car insurance. Go to geico.com today and see how much you could save.
A lot of people look at my skin tone and they're like, Brehanna, really, I do not believe you. Like, you're part of NASCAR. As a matter of fact, like, I'll probably be the first black female on pit road. So I feel like anything a man can do, a female can do.
What is your relationship with Jerry? As he stands right there.
Jerry's been great. We don't always agree, and I'm not paid to agree, and he's not paid to agree with me. I think that's, again, what the strength of our league is.
I wish NCAA players understood the power that they now have. I wish NCAA players would exercise that power by boycotting the NCAA tournament.
NCAA is corrupt.
What you see may change your perception of any sporting event. Get this, shoot this.
Just when you thought the tension between Roger Goodell and Jerry Jones was over, here we go again. Welcome to Outside the Lines. I'm Ryan Smith in for Bob Ley. How could this not be our big story? Sources revealing to ESPN's Dan Graziano that the NFL will demand Jerry Jones pay all fees the NFL's compensation committee incurred while defending itself from his threats to sue over Goodell's contract extension. Now, mind you, the Cowboys never followed through on that suit, but that's not all. Jones may have to compensate the league for legal fees spent defending the six-game suspension of Ezekiel Elliott. Now, wasn't all of this supposed to be water under the bridge? Remember when Goodell was asked this after the league's owners' meetings in December?
Jerry's been very critical of you lately. What is your relationship with Jerry? As he stands right there.
My relationship with Jerry has been great. We don't always agree, and I'm not paid to agree, and he's not paid to agree with me.
And on whether issues over Goodell's contract is suggestive of friction between them?
Do I look like I take it personally? Jerry, do I look like I take it personally? No, is the answer to that question.
Now, this was Jones's perspective at that same press conference just days after Goodell's contract extension was approved.
I know how much Roger Goodell loves the National Football League, and he should love it even more after right now. As with any organization of any type, whether it be business, social, or otherwise, you have to evolve and you have to make changes. And frankly, that is what this has been about. Now, if you saw anything happening, did I cause them to be made? You can't one person do it in the National Football League. It takes 32 owners there who make the changes.
So let's bring in ESPN investigative reporter Don Van Natt. He spent considerable time with Jerry Jones last season while researching an in-depth profile. Don, thank you so much for being with us. I should mention that this just came in. Washington Post Mark Maskey saying that Jerry Jones has asked for a hearing before Goodell on their attempt to force him to repay that $2 million. So hearing that, we've already heard what the NFL is going to do. Looks like Jerry Jones has made his first step. By the way, that's allowed within the rules. How far do you think Jerry Jones will take this? Because the final determination of this hearing goes to Roger Goodell.
It's very interesting that Roger Goodell is going to have the final word here, Ryan, because all of this is coming up from the owners. The owners on the compensation committee felt that Jerry Jones had overstepped his bounds. He had muscled his way onto the compensation committee on the issue of Roger Goodell's contract. And then that threat that he made last October 26th during the conference call to sue the compensation committee in the NFL did not sit well with them. So this is being pushed forward by owners who really want to put Jerry Jones in his place. And now it puts Roger Goodell in a very interesting kind of awkward situation of how he's going to handle this. I mean, if Goodell wanted to, presumably, he could tell the owners, look, stand down. This is water under the bridge. Let's move on. Because, Goodell has a conflict here when you really think about it. This was his contract extension that Jerry Jones was pushing against. So it will put Goodell in a very interesting situation in this appeal. And we'll see how it plays out.
So you think it's more some of the owners versus Jerry. Now, the other side of this is you see Goodell and Jones saying the right thing in public as recently as December. Since the extension, from the outside looking in, from your perspective, how is the relationship between the two men at this point?
I think it's strained, despite all the niceties that we saw at the owners' meeting in Irving, Texas in December. You know, Ryan, what really is going on here, I think, is a message that is being sent by these owners, led by Arthur Blank, the chairman of the compensation committee and the owner of the Falcons, that no one is bigger than the league. Jerry Jones was inducted into the Hall of Fame a year ago, and I think there was some resentment, some jealousy, some animosity toward Jones by some of the owners. They felt he was too big for his britches. He had muscled the Rams and the Chargers into Los Angeles and the Raiders into Vegas, and I think this was a chance to really slap him back. The other thing going on here is Jones wants to remake the bylaws and actually take away some of the power of the commissioner. The NFL commissioner has more power than any of the major sports leagues commissioners. And so I think what you're seeing here is a message being sent by some of these owners. Wait a minute, Jerry, slow down here. You're not the most powerful guy in this league. And, you know, this $2.5 million fee that they're charging is a way to send that message to him and to any other owners who want to take on Roger Goodell and the league power structure.
You know, Don, we know Jerry Jones is a fighter. If I'm his lawyer, I'm whispering in his ear, here's how you can get out of this. They're saying part of the reason you're going to pay this is because of a lawsuit. You didn't file anything. I'm coming up with all kinds of arguments. I'm thinking maybe I can bring this to court. So in order to avoid more bad press on all of this, what do you think everybody can do to settle this thing?
Well, it's going to take leadership. It's going to take leadership on the part of Roger Goodell. Goodell is going to have to use his diplomatic skills and try to calm down some of the owners. And I believe Arthur Blank and Robert Kraft, the Patriots owner, is the one who's really pushing this. And Goodell's going to have to just try to find a way with some diplomacy to get everybody to sit down and calm down and come up with some kind of settlement. If Jones wants to, he can, as you say, Ryan, fight back in court, and this will continue to be bad headlines for the league. A big part of why the owners were so mad is not so much that Jerry Jones was pushing so hard for a 6-month extension to discuss the Roger Goodell re-up. It really is that this played out so publicly at a time when the headlines were horrible last fall about the players kneeling and everything else. It came at a very, very bad time, and I think the owners would prefer that this stuff stay behind closed doors.
Yeah, we'll see. You talk about leadership. We will see how they are led out of this one. Don, thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
The Mavericks have been in the news of late for all the wrong reasons. The organization dogged by a recent Sports Illustrated report claiming that more than a dozen former and current employees painted a picture of the Mavs corporate culture as rife with, quote, misogyny and predatory sexual behavior towards women. Among the many accusations, former team president Terdema Ussery publicly fondled an employee, multiple claims of domestic assault by Mavs.com writer Earl Snead, who remained with the team until recently, and an employee openly watching porn at his desk, all of this allegedly swept under the rug by unsupportive management. Now, no one has accused owner Mark Cuban of this behavior, and he initially told SI, "This is all new to me. I don't have any tolerance for what I've read." Just days later, he took the blame for keeping Snead with the team until after the scandal broke, calling it a horrible mistake in hindsight. We didn't see all the gruesome details until just recently, adding, "My real blank up was I didn't realize the impact it would have on all the other employees." The Mavericks are now investigating these misconduct claims, but now perhaps it's a new day in Dallas. Cuban took the stage for his first press conference since the controversy, introducing a new CEO, Cint Marshall, and she didn't mince words.
I'm saddened, and I'll say that again, I'm very saddened that issues of domestic violence and sexual harassment are so prominent in our society, and allegations have surfaced once again in our organization. I want you to know behind the scenes, we are also responding.
Now, Cuban, seemingly visibly shaken, having recently learned of the death of his friend, NBA agent Dan Fagan, in a car accident, demurred when asked what he knew about misconduct accusations when he bought the team.
All that will come out from the investigator's report, so I'll defer to that, and we'll discuss. Cint will decide what to do at that point.
Joining me now is Jalen Rose and Jemele Hill, senior correspondent and columnist for The Undefeated. Now, Jemele, you wrote, the NBA must come down hard on Cuban. Even though he hasn't been directly implicated in anything, the Mavericks should be fine. Cuban needs to be suspended for all of next season, and the team should have their draft picks stripped. Why?
Well, when you look at the whole situation, and you know, as they said, and remember the Titans, attitude reflects leadership. And looking at just the gross missteps that were committed in this organization, and in fact, I could argue that I probably went too light in some respects. Really? And again, I know that Mark Cuban wasn't directly accused of anything, but when you look at even how he handled the domestic violence accusations against Earl Snead, I mean, this is just such a gross miscarriage of justice to the women that work there, that he has failed them in every possible way, that I think that the NBA, to send a message, and especially given the fact that we know the NBA is as progressive as it is, they need to send a very clear, concise, direct, and harsh message that this kind of behavior will not be tolerated in any of their organizations.
You know, Jalen, the flip side is Mark Cuban has said, you know, I didn't deal with that side. I'm on the basketball side. This is more of the management side. What do you think should happen?
I agree with Jemele, and don't be surprised if the NBA actually does this, because you talk about...
So a year suspension, draft picks, fines, all that.
I definitely agree, because the .com writer, for example, he had a history of domestic violence. They allowed him to work for the team knowing this. He was dating somebody that worked for the team, committed an act of domestic violence, and he still kept his job. How about the president? He was there for 18 years. He had a history before Cuban was an owner of the team. He allowed to be in that position for 18 years.
So are you saying how could he not know?
How could he not know? Absolutely, because when you report to HR in these scenarios and you're Mark Cuban, you're as hands-on as he is, that person that he's reporting to happens to be the owner of the team. So you can't separate the two when it comes to an issue like this, but you're the main person holding the trophy when you guys win the championship.
I could see Cuban making the argument that, well, this was one of the problems with HR. They didn't treat it seriously enough, and essentially they let the HR guy go. Could that be part of this? Could he be saying, you know, I didn't know, so I'm learning about this now, and I'm taking steps, including an investigation?
Well, the thing is, when you say you don't know, that doesn't make you look any better, okay? Because, as Jalen said, this is one of the most involved owners in professional sports. Not only does he hold...
The history of sports.
The history of sports. Not only does he hold the trophy, Jalen, and you know this, he's there always holding court with the media. He's always out front. He wants to be the face of that organization. So when it's time to